Hi, I'm J. Lauren Norris with Tell It Like It Is and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Also the author of Live a More Excellent Life and the creator of the 9 Lessons of Mastery and the Insuperable Bootcamp. Today I want to talk to you about the 4 primary areas of becoming insuperable, what we teach in the Insuperable Bootcamp. I also want to tell you that this all started with the 9 Lessons of Mastery, which were lessons that I extracted from the book Live a More Excellent Life. The 9 Lessons of Mastery has been taken into public high schools and taught to kids as a mentoring program over 9 months to really kind of get a grip on the way that they see themselves, the conversations they have with others, the habits that they possess, whether they're good, bad, or otherwise, and that kind of stuff. What I discovered, though, was that it wasn't just high school students that needed to learn this. In fact, I identified that I really work with 2 groups of people, those who are starting out and those who are starting over. And by starting out, I mean those are, maybe they're coming out of high school, they're coming out of the military, they're really just getting their feet wet in life. They're trying to figure out, what will I be when I grow up? What kind of person will I be? What kind of job will I have? What kind of vocational goals or educational goals do I have? Where do I want to live in this world? Do I want to have kids or not have kids? What kind of picture do I have for my own future? And that really is a big question. The other group of people would be those who are starting over, who maybe like my mother was divorced when I was 4. Again, she was widowed when I was about 10. And so twice in her life, she's completely started over in those relationships of great magnitude. In addition to that, though, she started over in careers. She went back to school at 50 years old to become a school teacher and has invested the last almost 15 years of her life in that particular arena. So sometimes we're starting out and sometimes we're starting over, maybe after a career or a death in the family or a loss of some major magnitude. Maybe your house is wiped out in Sandy, the hurricane that blew through the Northeast unexpectedly. There are so many different places in life where things just change and you can't do anything about it. So we talk about being insuperable. The Insuperable Bootcamp teaches people how to go through this process of restarting from the foundations of the way they think, working through all the things that they do and how they behave. It's a way of doing and being. And then in the final stage, we talk about giving back, and that is, what is it that you do it for? It's not just about doing things, it's why do you do these things? So today I want to talk to you about the 4 key areas and the 12 lessons. Yes, there are 12 now. There used to be 9 lessons of mastery. Now there are 12 lessons of becoming insuperable. Same material, just expansively growing as I realize the things that people are encountered with in life and what it takes to overcome them. And then empowering them to really move forward through those things. Generally speaking, Tell It Like It Is, I talk about leadership, vision, and communication. So I'm going to take this opportunity to really work with you about self-leadership. And that's what the 9 Lessons of Mastery are all about. So let's jump right into it. In the 4 areas, we have seeing, being, doing, and giving. Those are the 4 primary areas of lessons that we need to be able to master in our life. Now within each of these areas, there are specific things that we have to master. Under seeing, the first one is vision. Now, by vision, I don't mean your eyesight. I don't mean how you see yourself when you look in the mirror physically necessarily, as much as I mean, what do you see when you look out into your future? When you draw a picture, think Paint Me a Birmingham. When you draw a picture of what your future is going to be, what does it look like? Does it look like a little stick house on the side of a mountain, wrapped in cardboard, stapled up to the sides, maybe some duct tape for the opening door? I mean, what is it that you see? Do you see your house as a white mansion on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? Or do you see it as something somewhere between? I'm not telling you that there's a specific thing that you should pursue, that you should have in mind as your vision. I'm just telling you that you have the right to choose that it's your decision, that no one in the world can dictate it to you, no one can give it to you, that no one can take it from you. It's yours. It's your choice. So are how many kids you'll have, 1 or none, maybe 100, maybe you'll adopt 1,000. Maybe you'll be like Brad Jolie and just adopt kids from all over the world. Maybe you'll build an empire from the ashes like Oprah Winfrey did, coming from the tough life that she grew up with to the mega influence that she has now. Maybe you'll just live an average life because what you pursue is just having friends and family around you and living a life that you're content with. Whatever that vision is for your life, when you look 5 years, 10 years, 25 years in the future and you go, I see myself, however you finish that sentence is your choice. But if you don't start working on that now, every circumstance that comes along in your life will be another speed bump. And if you were to say, for an example, I want to grow up and be a doctor. And you realize that being a doctor means having great scores in math because you've got to be able to get through the sciences to get through the pharmaceuticals aspect of being a doctor. So does bedside manner. That weighs in almost as much as math. And you decide, well, I really don't like people. And I really don't like math. Well, then, my friend, being a doctor is probably not a great goal for your vision, because you have two major obstacles that you're going to have to change significantly. You're going to have to learn to like math. You have to learn to like people. Those are two really hard things to change. But if you knew both of those things to be true, I hate math and I really don't like people that much, but I love communication. Well, maybe you just want to be an author. Maybe you want to write books and sit in your log cabin and watch the snow fall and write books until the world looks square. But whatever it is that you want to do, you want that vision to line up with who you are. The next thing you want to see are your dreams. You've got to have a vision for the future, but don't give up on the dreams that you had as a kid. How many of us, when we were 5, 6, 7 years old, thought, I can look down the road and I can run as fast as any car that goes by. I can throw a baseball a mile. I can wrap a bed sheet around my neck and jump off the roof of the house. I can build a palace out of a refrigerator box. And yet, as we grow older, life sets in. Reality, as we call it, reality sets in. And we learn, well, Spud Webb, you're too short to play basketball. You'll never play in the NBA. In fact, you'll be lucky to make it to college. Danica Patrick racing cars for girls. Are you serious? Who in the world would ever think that a girl could race a car, much less lead a lap in the Indy 500 like she just did last week? There are a lot of things in life that you thought you could do, that you wanted to do, that you really were inspired by when you were a kid, and all of a sudden they're gone. You've got to see those dreams again. You've got to pursue those dreams again. You've got to look into your past, look into yourself, and ask yourself this question: what makes me laugh? What makes me cry? What makes me happy? What makes me sing? You ever have that moment where your emotions are so overwhelming, you're so happy about something, you just burst into song? I do. Maybe I'm the only one. Vision, dreams, and reflection. Now, this is the area where we do talk about what you see when you look in the mirror. And I don't mean I see freckles, I see eyebrows, I see lack of eyebrows, I see teeth, I see crooked teeth, straight teeth. That may be part of it, but here's what I really mean. When you look in the mirror, do you see someone worthy of love? Do you see someone that you would put your arms around and say, man, I really like this person? Or do you look in the mirror and go, what a loser. You're so fat, you're so ugly, you're so unlovable, nobody wants you around. If that's the reflection you see of yourself, let me tell you something. That reflection becomes the mirror of countenance on your face. It also becomes your attitude. And when you encounter other people, you see them the same way. If you have a hard time seeing you as lovable, you'll see others as unlovable. If you have a hard time seeing you as worthy of affection, you'll see others as unworthy of affection. That's a sad reality, but it is a reality. Here's the beautiful part of that, though. If you look in the mirror and you see yourself and you go, there is someone deeply loved and appreciated, your natural inclination when you see other people will be able to see them as deeply loved and appreciated. It's a tough road to hoe. That's not easy to do. It's hard to change your perception of yourself. If you haven't seen the video series that we did on the foundations, the 3 foundations of life, faith, family, and freedom, that really have to be undergirded by the attitude of being insuperable, that philosophy that says, I will not be overcome, overwhelmed, or passed by. When you think about faith, the things that you believe and that they come from your experiences, if you haven't watched that video, go find it. It's called Insuperable Philosophy. It'll teach you all the things that I consider to be the undergirding of everything that I teach in the 9 Lessons of Mastery or the Insuperable Boot Camp, all 12 Lessons of Mastery. But I do want to move on to the next thing. In being, we talk about 2 areas of being as well. Conversation being the first one. When we talk about the being, we're talking about the who that you are. And the who that you are is more illustrated by the words that come out of your mouth than by anything else. And there are really 2 sets of words. The words that you say to the people around you, and there have been studies from way back in the early 60s and 70s that talk about women saying 40 to 60,000 words a day and men saying 15 to 20,000 words a day. And then there were studies that came out in the late 2000s, or the late 90s, early 2000s, that no, that's not true. They all speak about the same, about 20,000 words a day. And then there's been a recent study that came out that said that women speak at about 30,000 words a day and men speak at about 20,000 words a day. Regardless of what you think is true, and apparently the jury's still out, no one can really decide, on who speaks more words out of their mouth, men or women. Here's what I do know to be a fact. Inside your head, you speak to yourself over 200,000 words a day. So whether you're talking male or female, we're talking about 10 times more communication going on inside your head than comes out of your mouth, or is written by your hand, or is texted with your thumbs. What does that tell you? That tells you that that conversation going on in your head has more to do with how you be, who you are, than anything else. And if you look in the mirror and you don't like that person, the things that you're going to say to that person are not going to be good. They're not going to be positive. So you've got to learn to manage your conversations, and we talk a lot about that in the boot camp. We dig really deep into what goes into those conversations. Is it word choices? Is it how you look, how you behave, how you act? What really is a conversation? So we'll talk a lot about that. The next area is gratitude. You ever experienced somebody that as you have a conversation with them, what you discover about them is that nothing in life is good enough for them? The way that their neighbor mows their lawn isn't good enough for them. The way that their car wash people wash their car, detail the car, forgot to vacuum, forgot to put the lemon scent inside their car. The way that the grocery person put their bread in the same bag with the milk, how dare they? All of those kind of things that go on around us in daily life, some people handle those things with a lot of grace. They see those moments, those instances, those opportunities for life, and they go, you know what, I'm just grateful to have my milk and my bread. I'm grateful that I had the money to buy my milk and my bread, or that someone gave me the money to buy my milk and my bread. That I got home with milk and bread is a phenomenal thing to me. The fact that someone put them in the same bag, I will not allow that to ruin my day. At the same time, if we're not thankful for those little bitty things, it's really hard to be thankful for the big things. You ever had a deep, loving relationship with someone, and eventually that relationship began to fall apart over time? I did. I was married almost 17 years. And my wife and I had come to that place of just near apathy. We were ready for it to be over. We had had the conversation and made the plans. You'll go this way, I'll go that way. This is how we'll end this. It'll be amicable. Neither one of us were tearful. Neither one of us were emotional. Neither one of us really cared. We were done. We were tired of the fighting. It was over. And then we went for a walk around the lake. And on the first lap around the lake, we kind of talked about all the statistics and how we'll work this out, and this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, and blah. And nothing really came to light that we could look at and go, now that's something I can change. And about 5 steps from the end of that first time around the lake, she turned to me and she said, you know, I just don't think you appreciate me. And I thought to myself, how in the world could we be married all this time and you not know how much I appreciate you, that I love you? I mean, yes, you make mistakes. We all do. I make mistakes, and I know you tolerate mine too. But what do you mean I don't appreciate you? And she said, I hear you say I love you, but I don't ever hear you say I appreciate you. You don't demonstrate to me in the ways that I receive love that you appreciate me. And that broke me. We walked another lap, and then another lap, and I began to realize how many ways I was living my life with me kind of at the forefront, even without knowing it. And in that relationship, we were able to restore our relationship. We're pushing 20 years now. And that was all about making the decision to express gratitude in a new way. The words are really easy. Thank you. But don't stop there. Put a 4 behind that. And I don't mean the number 4. I mean to finish that sentence with a thank you for ... And never let it end. Never come to the place where you're done saying thank you. Never come to the place where you don't mention someone by name when you have a chance. Dale Carnegie says the sweetest words in anyone's language is their own name. If you can speak someone's name and say thank you to the person who holds the door for you at the mall, for the person who washes your car, delivers your mail, cleans up after your kids at school, whatever it is, say thank you and mean it. That's a great idea. Don't just say it, mean it. Be honest about it, and it will change the who that you are as well. The next area of the 4 areas that I believe are necessary to have Insuperable as your attitude, to be able to walk in that every single day, to not be overwhelmed, overcome, or passed by, is doing. And the first of those is habits. Habits are the things that you do without thinking. And what I mean by that is, there are those things that you do that you have to think about. You have to think about opening a door. You have to think about getting in your car. You have to think about turning the key. But only for so long. After a while, you learn that every door pretty much opens the same way. You either pull on it or you push on it. You turn the knob or you don't. But they all pretty much open the same way. And after a while, you get into the habit of opening doors. In fact, you may have been in one of those places where I've been, where you see a door, and because it has a handle on the inside, you assume that means to pull. And you pull on it, and it doesn't go anywhere. And you realize this door isn't marked to say push. Just because it has a handle on the inside, I'm in the habit of pulling it. So I pull on this handle, and it doesn't open. You ever done that? Have you ever had a habit that you identified later on and went, wow, how did I get that habit? And you have to really think hard to think, where did it start? Maybe you've heard the old story of the guy who asked his wife, why do you cut the ends off the roast before you cook it every Christmas? She said, well, I do that because my mother taught me that. So he asked her mother, why did you do that? And she said, well, I don't know. My mother taught me that. You'd have to ask her. So that Christmas, they're all gathered around, and she's cut the end off the roast and stuck it in the oven. And he looks at her and says, so tell me again why you cut the ends off. She said again, you'll have to ask my mom. So he asked her mom and says, well, why do you cut it? And then Granny's standing there and he says, Granny, why did you cut the ends off the roast? She said, I don't know why they're wasting all that good meat, honey. I had to do it because my oven was too small and it wouldn't fit in the roasting pan that would fit in my oven. Now, if you have habits in your life that have come from things you've observed, those things that become your reality because you believe them, because you've experienced them, those habits can drive you toward greatness or they can drive you toward destruction. I spent 25 years addicted to pornography. That was a habit that I didn't realize was a choice, the outcome of which was very destructive and dangerous in my life. Those are the type of habits that you have a chance to change, a choice to change in your life, and you also have the responsibility and the authority to do it. The next one we want to talk about are actions, attitudes, and behaviors. Now, we've already talked about action, attitude, and behaviors in the way of talking about habits, talking about having a particular attitude. What we go into in this section, delving deeply into what does it mean to have an attitude, where did you get your attitude, what creates them, what's the foundation of an attitude. Again, if you watch the Insuperable philosophy, you'll see a lot of that in there. But we'll go deeper into where did you get the attitudes that you have? What are some of the core values, the foundational experiences that you've had, the things you've been taught all your life, that you've heard over and over again, that have created beliefs, that created attitudes, that then lead you to certain actions, and then that leads you to certain behavior. See, when you take an action on a regular basis, if it doesn't become a habit, it at least becomes a behavior. Maybe it's the way you respond to someone. I know people who will say thank you or I'm sorry, but their tone of voice doesn't say I'm thank you or I'm sorry. When we talk about reflection and communication, you'll hear some statistics on what measure of all the things that you communicate to someone have to do with the words that you say versus the tone of voice versus your body language. And we really dig into some of that stuff when we talk about actions, attitude, and behavior, and then bring that back together with conversations because it's a really big deal exactly what those things mean and how they impact relationships around you. Finally, we talk about circumstances. Many of the decisions that you make in your life are based on circumstances from your past, things that have happened to you. I call some of those boat rockers, those moments like getting unemployed. Most people don't plan to get unemployed. We quit a job when we have another opportunity ahead of us, or we quit a job to go off and do our own thing, or we quit a job because we just can't take the nature of the environment that we're in right now. We have freedom of organization, we choose to move on. But some of us lose jobs with no preparation. We had no idea it was coming. We never expected it. The last time I lost a job in corporate America was 4 months after I accepted a promotion. Now, the position that I vacated when I took the promotion, that guy still works there. But my promotion, that entire department got laid off. Wasn't a very good choice for me to make a promotion, but who would have known that before I did it? Now the question is, what do I do with circumstances like that? Do I grovel? Do I sit there and beg for my job back? Do I get miserable and take a bad attitude and begin to hate the world because I deserve to have a better job than this? I deserve to keep my job. Why am I the one living like this? Why did I have to lose my job? Why not somebody else? Why don't you make him lose his job and give me back my old job? Those are all ideas and attitudes that we can possess on our own if we look at the circumstances from the wrong way. But there are not only circumstances like that I might call a boat rocker, there are also peg moments where someone's laid down an idea in front of us and we just have to decide whether we accept it or not. Beyond that, there are also those moments that we had absolutely no control over whatsoever. None of us predicted Hurricane Sandy with any accuracy to be able to say, here's what house it's going to hit, move you somewhere else. No one, when they built their house, knew there was going to be a hurricane coming on that date and that time to prevent what was going to happen, to be able to protect their house from happening or building it somewhere where that could never happen. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, fires. There are so many destructive things that happen all around us. Bad behavior of others. You ever been encountered by a drunk driver or a holdup or an incidental shooting? How many people have been innocent bystanders in crimes? They had absolutely nothing to do with it. They were just innocent victims that got their lives crashed, wrecked, destroyed in a moment of accident. What about a diagnosis of cancer or diabetes or something of that nature that changes the whole way you have to live your life and all the decisions that you make? because circumstances around you. We talk about how to approach each of those things to be prepared for them and to know they're not unlivable. They may be unpredictable, but you can survive through it. I remember Jafar, the crazy little bird from the movie Aladdin many, many years ago, used to say, it's not what'll kill you you got to worry about, but you'd be surprised what you could live through. And that really is both a threat and a promise at the same time. There are so many things we can live through that may seem to absolutely destroy us. But there are also those things that we can live through and be better people on the other side. And that is about a choice of attitude. So how do we approach those things? How do we prepare for those things? And then what do we do with the ones that have already happened that we can't undo, we can't fix, and we could have never prevented? How do we deal with those? How do we cope with those? That's what we talk about in the Insuperable Boot Camp. And we talk about that in a community of all the people in the room. And there are some emotional moments in that. There are some circumstances that have happened, like my being victimized as a 9-year-old boy when I was sexually assaulted, being abused by my stepfather. Some of those emotional environments in your life can become very, very personal. In the sense of community of the Insuperable Boot Camp, everyone is kind of wearing the same skin that day. We all kind of share those experiences. So wear your big girl pants, your big boy pants, because when we start talking about that stuff, there are going to be some hard-hitting facts of the way that we have to deal with them, but emotionally they don't seem right. Does that make sense? So we're really going to dig into that stuff. The final area that I want to talk about is the area of giving, and there are 3 areas in that. The first one is natural resources. When I say natural resources, what I don't mean is oil and gas and shale and salt water or clean water or whatever. What I am talking about are the things that you've been given that no one else in this world has. See, no one else has the time that you have. You can't take time out of your life and give it to mine. You can't take time out of your day and make my day longer. You can't take the minutes and the hours on your clock and give them to me. They're your time and they're nobody else's time. But see, in the same way, you can't get them back once they're gone. And if you don't use them properly or invest them properly, once they're gone forever. Another area would be your talent. What kind of talents do you have? You may have gifts that I don't have. I have no balance skills whatsoever. If I stand on one foot long enough to reach something on the top shelf, I'm liable to be on the floor before I get it down. I have to brace myself or hold something. That may be the fact that I'm shaped like a weeble. It may be just the fact that I don't have natural balance. It is a skill that I could perfect, but it's not one of my top talents, which means I will probably never be a wide receiver who's going to run down the sideline catching a football. I'll probably never be a figure skater. Those are things that I have to understand are natural talents. Now, I do have a gift for gab. Good, bad, or otherwise, I talk a lot. I'm cool with talking in front of 2 people or 2,000 or 20,000 or 40,000. I think that's the largest crowd I've ever spoken in front of, 40,000 people. I have no problem with that. It doesn't bother me at all. Some people are absolutely terrified of that. They don't have the talent for it or the gift for it or even the passion to do it. I have all of the above. I love it. Another thing we talk about is treasure. Now, a lot of people, when I talk about treasure, the only thing they can think about in treasure is resources, cash, the big dollar sign thing. That's not the way I see resources, although that is one of them. But when you talk about your time, talent, and treasure, what I mean is your reputation. How many of you have made mistakes in the past that come back to haunt you when you file for a job, when you apply for a new opportunity or a new relationship, and all of a sudden you can't get that job, you can't go to that place, you can't be there because something in your reputation, whether it's your credit score or something of that nature, that damages your opportunity to work in that environment, it damages your opportunity to buy that car, to live in that house, to live in that neighborhood. All those things can be destroyed by one mistake. I mean, maybe you buy that car when you don't have the job. You buy that car when you're unemployed. You buy that car and think, well, I'll be able to pay it off, and then you get unemployed. And the treasure of your reputation is destroyed. Maybe it's one bad word in public. Maybe it's getting drunk and doing something stupid, and it gets recorded on YouTube, and it's there forever. Those are the little things that I talk about in reputation. And so we'll talk about some very specific ways that you can protect your reputation, that you can invest in your reputation, and what it means to share with others how you give back your reputation as well. Maybe you have a reputation that is like solid gold and you want to lend it to people. You want to lend your belief in them, but you don't want to let them destroy it. So we'll talk about some strategic things in that. And then finally, in the area of natural resources is attention. How many times have you been in a conversation with someone and a few minutes in you look and you realize their eyes have wandered off to somewhere else and you really don't have their presence. You don't have their attention. They're not looking at you. They're not listening to you. They really don't care what you have to say. We find ourselves a lot of times engaged in something that really does take our focus. It really takes our attention, like maybe balancing our checkbook or filling out a form or something of that nature. We have to think about the process. But a lot of times we go through our life while we're casually multitasking. We're answering emails, talking on the phone, driving our car, checking our Facebook, simultaneously, which means nothing is really getting our full and undivided attention, which means nothing's really being committed to. And sometimes that happens in relationships. Sometimes that happens in our skills. Sometimes our talent doesn't get our attention. And by that I mean we know what we could do, but we don't apply any effort to it. So I want to talk about natural resources. The next is your pathway. How can you give back in pathway? Well, pathway has two aspects. One is following that treasure map toward the things that you are going to succeed at in life, and the other is learning the warning signs that can lead you into destruction. When we talk about that, we talk about that from the aspect of finding those people who have been down the path that you've been down before so that you can follow them and avoid the pitfalls. We also talk about what does it mean to give back in the way of pathway. What are some of the things you could mentor someone else in? What are some things that you could teach them so that their life would be easier, less complicated, or less painful? When we talk about pathway in the Insuperable boot camp, that's exactly what we talk about. And finally, legacy. And what I mean by legacy is understanding that what you give away, sometimes it's not your 1099, it's not your will, it's not, here are all the possessions that I have amassed over the course of my life, but what you give away are those things that are not necessarily taught, but they're caught. See my boys for an example. If you were to say to them, if a man wants to work, they'll finish that sentence for you. But that's backwards. If you say, if a man wants to eat, they'll finish that phrase with, let him work. What they understand by that is that nothing in life is free. Everything is worth earning. Anything worth having is worth working for. The only exception being grace and mercy, which are kind of a combined thing that we get from our Heavenly Father, and you can't earn that anyway, no matter how hard you try. But everything on this earth that's worth having is worth working for. If someone gives it to you as a gift, that means they've worked for it. You didn't get it for free. You didn't get it with no one's effort. So if you're going to give it away, then you have to teach someone what the value of it was. When I talk about legacy, I talk about how do you leave behind the values, leave behind the ideologies, leave behind the philosophies, leave behind the core values that have brought you to the place that you are in your life. My boys will run ahead of a crowd to open the door for a woman if they see a lady walking into a library or a restaurant or something of that nature. They won't let her pass through that door opening it herself. And especially if maybe she's managing a stroller or has her hands full or she's on the phone or something like that, they're going to make an extra effort to make sure that she has help. We've stopped on the side of the roads for as long as I can remember since my boys were 5 and 6 to change other people's flat tires. Our Norris family philosophy is really simple. If you can help, do. Don't talk about it, don't think about it, don't brag about it, just do it and move on. It seems kind of oxymoronic to tell you that I say don't brag about it. What I mean by that is just do the job. You don't expect a paycheck, you don't expect a thank you. If it comes, that's even, bonus, that's like icing on the cake. But what really does happen is just the opportunity to build a deeper relationship with someone and to show someone else their value. It's a reflection of knowing that I'm deeply loved and highly valued, and every other human being as well. That's the greatest gift that I can leave my children. It's not the checks that'll be in the bank. It's not the insurance policy. It's not the home. It's not the cars. It's none of that. It's teaching them to see, to be, to do, and to give at the highest level. Because we can't just live a moderate life and pass on to a moderate, dismal end. Too many people have done that before us already. I don't remember who it is that said the saddest thing on this earth is not the tombstones when you see the bodies that are buried there, but the dreams that are buried with them. I hope you'll consider joining us for the Insuperable Boot Camp, or maybe the Vision Workshop, where we really dig into what it takes to build a vision for your life, or the Communications Workshop, Advanced Communications, called Tell It Like It Is, where we talk about how to tell your story better and why it matters, the psychology of communication and verbal and nonverbal communications, and we give everybody a chance to get at the front of the room and talk about what they do. But more than anything else, I want you to think about what it takes for you to live a more excellent life. How can you see and be and do and give to the highest level possible? Thank you for joining me today. Again, I am J. Lauren Norris from Tell It Like It Is. Have a great day.